Hey folks, welcome to another edition of Fitness Friday Posi-TIPS with Rachelle. So folks, this is it. This is the last episode on the value of competitive analysis. And I wanted to highlight, I'm going to dive right in here on the importance of the sales advantage. The sales advantage, because marketing is so important. I've done a number of marketing episodes here in the last few years, but this time it's all about sales. And I'm going to be very generous, my most generous ever in this episode. So certainly, particularly towards the end when I do a case study. So certainly hang in there as I talk about these important sales topics. And so first off, I want to point out, now your sales approach, your sales strategy needs to flow from it needs to be a natural flow from your marketing efforts. So what are your marketing messages saying? So to give you some examples, we're going to start out here, but we're quickly with the SWOT analysis. Here, and I talk about this over and over again, but it's so important. So again, folks, internally, your strengths, your weaknesses, externally, your opportunities and your threats. All right, so your marketing is based around your strengths, your competitive advantages relative to other gyms, chain studios, whatever the case may be, community centers. This is where your marketing and your competitive advantages lie. In a competitive selling situation, you are highlighting your strengths. All right, and we're going to talk more about this threats, as I mentioned, as I talk about the case study and highlight a case study here at the end of Crunch Fitness and Planet Fitness here in Metro Detroit, but it's got to flow from your marketing. So it's got to reinforce, all right, the ubiquitous marketing of Planet Fitness. All right, and so you've heard me mention here a few episodes ago where I highlighted a Crain's Detroit business article that talked about Planet Fitness was the official partner of the Detroit Tigers now. And so now what you see here on the marketing pieces that come, direct mail pieces, you see that highlighted here, the Detroit Tigers, the Old English Detroit Tigers logo. Also, this marketing, this little giveaway, promotional giveaway that I received at the grand opening at the Wayne, Michigan location, the newest location on August 8th, received this, but also it had two tattoos inside of the Planet Fitness logo you can see here, but also again that D highlighting the Detroit Tigers partnership. And lastly, you can see here, this is a Planet Fitness branded chapstick, but you see that Detroit Tigers D right there. And the same is true when you walk into the clubs. They've now got large posters highlighting, the fact that they are a fitness partner of the Detroit Tigers. So that's an example of the synergistic. That can be a selling message of, hey, now when you walk in, you're given a tour. And as you can see here on this poster highlights, the Detroit Tigers are now partnering with Planet Fitness. So that says a lot about us in terms of what we're able to do and help people and some of the values that both of our organizations share. So just a perfect example of that. All right, now I was in Dearborn recently, back in one of my old stomping grounds, my old gyms, the Ford Community Performing Arts Center. It was my gym for the years that I lived in Dearborn. And so this is a while back, but they were highlighting their 30-day membership. Again, a summer special. All right, so when the young man gave me the tour, he told me all about this, So again, the marketing piece driving your sales message, right? If someone's calling you or they're reaching out to you via the internet or your website or coming in for a tour on the phone, whatever the case may be, texting you or texting your facility, whatever the case may be. All right, your sales message and what folks are saying needs to be reinforced by what your marketing is showing. Okay, so RJ Sale is a relatively, he's been the manager at the Farmington Hills, Michigan location of Anytime Fitness. Had an opportunity to stop in a while back, so May 23rd, talked with him, went over to that location. I've highlighted that particular location a couple years ago on a Fitness Friday. Actually interviewed the former manager, trainer Nick Taylor, and his brother. Didn't interview him, but his brother was also a trainer. They had a remarkable story that had been covered before. Just that gym is pretty well known for helping people lose a lot of weight, or certainly known at that time for helping lose a lot of weight. So Nick and his brother had both lost and kept off more than 100 pounds each. So it was a remarkable story, and some of you remember I interviewed him and he gave some fitness tips, and that was great. But Nick has moved on to the Novi location of Anytime Fitness. RJ Sale was a member there and is now the manager and has done extremely well. If you go to look at their Google reviews as an example for Anytime Fitness in Farmington Hills, Michigan, you will see RJ plastered. I mean, his name permeates those positive reviews. And when you go into the club, he's talking about those reviews. He's got, some pieces of paper that are highlighting the reviews and what his overall scores are, and the fact that in a year he turned that club into an award-winning Purple Club, one of the award-winning designations for the Anytime Fitness franchise. So he's done extremely well, but he utilizes those reviews in his sales message. When you walk into you get a tour or whatever, because I was curious, I wanted to know. I mean, this guy is tearing stuff up in here in this gym. I got to know what's going on. And so it was great to meet him, but he's highly competitive. But that's an example. All right, so his review reviews are doing a lot for him, or basically marketing and selling his club for him. Because you walk into the man, I saw those reviews, and he's got all those, designations and stuff in his office and all of that. So an example, positive marketing. That's why I tell you over and over again, ad nauseum, what are your reviews saying? They're helping you or they're hurting you. So you've got to pay attention to what's going on, and that certainly he's an example of someone that's being helped by those reviews. Okay, one of my alma maters, Northwestern University, this is their marketing piece. So again, when you go in for a tour of the fitness center, so this is NU or Northwestern University Recreation. So they've got it all here: the aquatics, the Swedish massage, the private Pilates, private yoga. The breadth and depth of the equipment that they have, it's all in here. But this has the flow when you go in and get a tour, and everything's got to be synergistic, because Northwestern for 2018-2019, it's a private school. The total cost of attendance per year will be $75,484 a year. So their marketing has got to reinforce that. Their pricing, I won't get into that, has to reinforce that. They don't do guest passes. They do trial memberships for 1 week, and that's it. They don't give discounts to alumni and all of that. They have set pricing. But again, their marketing has to reinforce that very expensive, prestigious, elite image. So that's an example of how the sales message when you're going for a tour flows from that. All right, Crunch Fitness, going to talk more about them at the end, but they've got it here too. Again, the Crunch logo, all of that, very promotions driven, no judgment, a zillion classes. So they're highlighting their competitive strengths as well. No enrollment fee, 1 week, free all week, free 1 week, all access pass. So you go into the clubs, they are reinforcing those messages. And that's what has to happen. So your marketing has to flow from that. Your goals need to be one of three things. And you have to determine that. Number one, is it new member acquisition? Number two, is it current member retention? Number three, are you looking to upsell your current members? Are you looking to sell more product? Are you looking to move them from one level to the next level? What is your strategy? And your sales has to flow from that. And so we talk next about sales approach. Before I close this episode out with a very meaty case study of Crunch Fitness and Planet Fitness here locally, wanted to highlight a couple of quick reviews here. Indeed.com reviews, where it was looking at a former employee of Planet Fitness and a current employee of LA Fitness. You heard me talk about their different styles, and Planet Fitness is generally known to be just no pressure, and that's certainly one of their competitive strengths. Where LA Fitness, which was ranked number 1 in terms of Club Industry Magazine rankings for 2018, that just the approaches are very different. Okay, LA Fitness, your Lifetime, which has very niche marketing because they're more expensive gyms. Same thing with Equinox. All right, so very, 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 very sales-driven organizations, sales-driven chains. All right, 24 hours, same thing. They've got franchises, but more sales-driven because they're not spending a whole lot of money on marketing, and so they rely more heavily on the sales end of the equation. So we've got a 3-star review here from a member service representative, a former employee here in Metro Detroit. Review was written on January 27, 2014. It says, a typical day at work included signing people up at the gym while also being a salesperson and upgrading to the bigger package. There were times in the day when I was by myself, so I definitely had a lot of time to practice multitasking. The most enjoyable part of my job was being around people who were dedicated in creating a healthier lifestyle. All right, contrast that with LA Fitness, again, Metro Detroit, 3-star review. All right, in March 19th, 2018, written by a sales associate, current employee. You are expected to make 60 to 100 cold calls a day and recruit 100 new prospects per week. If you have previous sales experience and are okay with making cold calls, then this is a fun job. So very different sales approaches. So it's black and white when it comes to inside the fitness industry or outside the fitness industry. And sales interactions, you all know, and that's why sales overall, a lot of salespeople, the industry, the field, I should say, tends to have a bad reputation because you've got either no pressure, low pressure approaches or high pressure. And unfortunately, it seems the high pressures situations tend to permeate. And I would argue those high pressure approaches, that's because you're dealing with a lot of people who aren't trained, who haven't been trained on the sales process and how generally there's certain steps that you should go through a process and not automatically start pressuring people to do something within the first 60 seconds of your meeting them. So just very different approach. So with the SWOT analysis, bring it back again. You got to know your competition from a sales standpoint. You got to know your own strengths, your own weaknesses, and just recognize that your competitors are going to sell against those weaknesses. All right, so looking at opportunities and threats, we can see as I'm about to talk about this meaty case study here that I've devised for Crunch Fitness here and the David Goliath situation I've highlighted before between these two, Crunch Fitness, our newest entrant here in Metro Detroit, and Planet Fitness. So Crunch saw an opportunity here. This is a very rich fitness market, but also from a Planet Fitness standpoint, now they've got a new entrant, which could certainly be a threat. And Planet Fitness is a threat to Crunch Fitness. So that's how it works. And don't want to get into all that, but got to move on to this case study here and wrap this episode up. So Crunch, folks, David versus Goliath. So David being Crunch Fitness versus Goliath being Planet Fitness. All right, so I'm going to go all the way down from the corporate level all the way down, all right, to the local level. So you look at sales culture. So both are known, no pressure, low pressure. I mean, just again, you see some variations with Planet. You also see some variations with Crunch Fitness. When you look at some of the reviews on Indeed or Glassdoor, you can see some franchisees, they're just more of a push for their people to sell and upsell and do different things like that. But generally, I would argue relative to the corporate chains, these are both low pressure, no pressure. All right, and so we've got Crunch Fitness nationally, 235 to 240 locations. They are in the midst of an aggressive growth push right now nationally, whereas Planet Fitness, well over 1,600 locations internationally. Crunch founded in 1989, Planet founded in 1992. Crunch pioneered the no judgments philosophy. All right, and they have no reputational baggage around that. And I can't get into that, but whereas now you've got Planet Fitness, they have the judgment-free zone, but they have a lot of negative reputational baggage around that. I mentioned I'm going to do an orphan episode on the complexities of the lunk alarm and how that's kind of created some challenges over the years for Planet, relative especially to Crunch. So we're going to talk about that in a future episode, but just recognize that's what it is right now. So in terms of pricing, the difference between the two, Crunch has 4 pricing levels for contract and 4 additional pricing for no contract. So there is a $5 price difference at each level if you sign up for a no contract program or plan or membership at Crunch Fitness. Whereas you go to Planet, you're going to have your basic $10 membership, no contract, $21.99 Black Card membership. But I have seen some locations that have that third tier middle membership for $15. And so, but they don't all do that. So I just want to focus on what is pretty standard nationally: the $10 a month and $21.99 Black Card contract membership. Promotions. All right. So you've got Crunch Fitness, which is very promotions driven. Same thing with Planet, but Crunch has greater promotional breadth. And what I mean by that is they do different things. Like we're going to raffle off, example here, franchisees, Crunch raffling off a Harley for folks that sign up for memberships at the Dearborn Club and the Farmington, Michigan Club. All right, and so there's different ways and different things. You look at their promotional strategy throughout the course of the year. There's a lot of variation of that. Whereas at Planet, you will see, last fall it was 25 cents down to celebrate their 25th membership, $1 down, $5 down, $10 down. That's pretty standard. Okay, whereas Crunch, they're doing a lot of different things. They're shaking that up a little bit, giving a lot more variety in terms of their signups and their promotions that they run. So, but you have to study it throughout the course of the year to really know that. So taking it down from the corporate level, national level to Metro Detroit, looking at leadership. Okay, so you got Adam, who was given the keys to the Crunch franchise here in Michigan. He is a professional poker player. He's been very successful in that. I've researched and studied the background and studied poker and thought about ways of how that's going to impact a person's leadership, and I could certainly see that. You're going to have someone that's going to be more guarded, that's going to be doing a lot of things that you will found out about when they happen. All right, so you think about poker players wearing glasses, covering their mouths, wearing hoodies and all of that to cover and mask their body language because they don't want to give out anything to give their competitors a competitive advantage. So he's partnered up with James, who has been a successful builder for more than 25 years here in Metro Detroit. So he's going to be bringing in the real estate and all of that type of expertise to the equation and all of that versus the Goliath. In this particular case is for their 3 clubs that are open in Dearborn, Westland, and Farmington Hills, PF Michigan Group. All right, eventually will be other franchisees across Metro Detroit, but PF Michigan Group here now, very high profile, one of the largest franchise groups across brands, across chains in the U.S. They do a lot. They have a lot of good marketing. They publicize in terms of future club openings and all of that. So you see that there. And they're actually, like as I mentioned before, partners with the Detroit Tigers. So that's huge, not only for PF Michigan Group, but that is huge for Michigan, for all the Planet Fitness locations in Michigan. All right, so the franchisees own 3 Metro Detroit locations, as I mentioned, whereas Planet Fitness or PF Michigan Group, there are 40 to 41 locations here in Michigan and Ohio. Although the Crunch Fitness, their aggressive growth plans for the next 5 years are 28 locations. So they are aggressively growing, but again, you won't find that out until you go in the club and you talk about particularly their second tier membership and above, which enables you to go to different clubs. They're not going to be publicizing what they're doing and all of that in terms of competitive strategy. Not going to do it. Okay, so moving on down to the club level, some of the similarities that you see: hydro massage, tanning, bringing a guest for free at that second tier membership. So these three were just very quick examples are similarities that were competitive advantages for Planet Fitness, but now Crunch has come in with these same amenities and all of that actually at a lower price. So that's when I mentioned that the competitive threats can be neutralized very quickly in any given market. Some of the differences here: Crunch has decentralized social media at the club level, where Planet doesn't. Their social media, Facebook, Planet, their corporate Twitter page, they haven't been active on that since last October, but just use Facebook. Their corporate is very active on that. But at the local level, at the club level, those franchisees are not able to post their own stuff and all of that, whereas Crunch, their strategy is decentralized. So, I don't know, John, who may be offering a boot camp class at Crunch Fitness in Dearborn, just hypothetically, whether the manager or anyone else on staff can pull out their phone and do a quick video. Hey, this is John, and he's about to hold this class, and we're going to, watch him in this class for 5 minutes, post it to social media. Bam. They can do that. So they're able to engage and build a lot of buzz around a lot of things that they do. So that's just a difference. They have Olympic lifting platforms. They've got boxing bags. They've got turf. They've got dry sauna. They offer personal training. They've got group fitness classes, Zumba spinning, and a ton of other classes. And then they're actually also cheaper at those two levels, where you can look at comparable memberships with Crunch and Planet. They're actually $9.95 versus $10, and then $19.95 at that second tier versus the $21.99. But you got to remember, if you're no contract at Crunch, they're going to add on that $5, so it won't be cheaper depending on which plan you sign up for. And also the Dearborn, Michigan location. Again, Adam is very obsessed with feedback. I highlighted him as an example of that last fall, and so he got a lot of feedback. Oh, there's no childcare. We want daycare, yada yada. And so the Dearborn location, his second location, there is childcare. So doing some trial and error, piloting that, learning some lessons, seeing how that goes before that is potentially rolled out to other clubs. So that would be a huge competitive advantage. Okay, so from a sales standpoint, all right, so they're both very compliance-driven organizations. They don't want their folks telling people crazy, wild things, pressuring people, telling them anything to sell anything. So those are some of the key similarities. So the key differentiator in terms of sales, and I would argue this is Crunch versus other chains in the industry and even private gyms and all of that. Crunch uses video mystery shopping. All right, what that means, they've got mystery shoppers going in with hidden video. All right, and so going in for a tour, seeing, and that video is capturing everything. And that's one thing, you get a tour with Crunch, you're meeting trainers, you're meeting all these other people. And so everyone is in that role to sell, and you can see that, and they do a good job. But the emphasis of their video mystery shopping and their mystery shopping program has a heavy emphasis on sales training, sales improvement, skills improvement. Is the person closing? Are they asking for their business? Are they pressuring people? All of that is going to be captured on video. Going to be captured very well on video, and making sure, okay, if I'm introduced to a trainer, is that person selling? Are they talking about what they can offer and how they can benefit me? So I think that is certainly a strength. And we have mentioned to you a couple of episodes ago, franchise business review, number one in the fitness category is Crunch Fitness. And I would argue that's why. That's part of the reason. That's a big reason why, is that they help their folks. They give a lot of sales support, sales training support, because that is very, very tough. All right, and this is all of their Crunch clubs. They're not picking and choosing which ones are getting the video mystery shoppers. They're all getting it. So they're all benefiting from the sales training aspect. And I would argue, relative to other gyms, Crunch folks have been the best I've seen. Remember, I have a sales background. I've conducted sales workshops and sales training and all of that. They're good. They're good. I would liken them to the 2014 San Antonio Spurs with Coach Popovich. Again, they're not the 2018 Golden Warriors, because the Golden Warriors, with all due respect, they're stacked with superstar talent. But whereas Popovich, he's known, he's an excellent coach. His teams are always well coached. And I would argue the same thing with Crunch. I could draw that same parallel. Because they have that emphasis on sales training from corporate, they are very well coached in that process. So some of the differentiators as well, in terms of a selling situation, Crunch selling against Planet, and what I've seen and part of their strategy, the squat racks. Going against, okay, Planet that no longer has squat racks, even though folks are utilizing Smith machines to do squat racks. I see it every time I'm in a Planet Fitness. Their dumbbell depth, okay, Planet goes up to 60, 75. Okay, so, Crunch goes well above that. The stretching areas, yes, they're selling against stretching areas. The cardio depth of, for example, multiple types of ellipticals. All right, and also looking at it from just looking at the state of Michigan here, what Crunch will bring to the equation is you've got one person that owns the rights to the whole state. So his facilities are going to be standardized, and this is true, of course, across the franchise in general. So all locations are going to have turf. All locations are going to have boxing bags. All locations are going to have multiple types of ellipticals. Where at Planet, they're less standardized. You can go to one location that will have this, one location will have that. It's just a lot of variation, and there's multiple different owners. So that would be the challenge in that, in terms of creating standardization. All right, in terms of sales opportunities, what I would say here, this is case study, this is my consulting insight here. Breadth and depth, highlight of your Crunch, highlight breadth and depth, which they are certainly doing. All right, number two, the no judgments. You can highlight the no judgments philosophy. They pioneered that. You don't have any negative reputational baggage around that. One of their cues, their number two marketing message is inclusivity. So whereas Planet's kind of run into some problems with people feeling judged, if you're a bodybuilder, if you're fit and all of that, and a lunk alarm, okay, Crunch doesn't have any of that. So that is an opportunity, it's a tremendous sales opportunity for them to highlight that. You never know, if you're at Planet, you never know if you're going to go in and a lunk alarm's going to go off and it's going to be loud and it's going to interrupt your workout and you may fall off a treadmill. There's different ways that you can sell that, all right? But if you're PF Michigan Group or Planet Fitness eventually here in the Metro Detroit area, highlight 24 hours. Your gyms are open 24 hours. 24 hours, that is huge, even relative to other chains that are shifting away from that. Because the cost-benefit of analysis of having gyms open 24 hours, the folks are not seeing the benefits, so they're shifting away from that, but also there's additional liabilities being open overnight. Different things happen to people and stuff in gyms overnight. So it's a huge advantage, but also paint a picture for people. Don't just in a sales situation during the tour, yeah, we're open 24/7. Talk about what that means. What does that mean? Okay, if you can't sleep at night and you just, you want to work out some stress, okay, come on in and work out. We're open 24 hours. You can come in here at 1:30 in the morning and work out. Okay, you got an early flight, a 6 o'clock a.m. flight, you come in and work out at 3:30 and head to the airport. No problem. So you got to paint the picture and don't assume that everyone can really internalize the benefit of doing that, okay? Number two, the Planet has straightforward sign-ups and no sales pressure. So you sign up, they're done. They're not trying to sell you some personal training. Your personal training is free. That is something you can certainly sell, and a key benefit that you can certainly sell, but you got to paint the picture for people. You're not going to have people walking around trying to sell you protein shakes and protein powder and all this other stuff. So you got to recognize that. All right, lastly, one piece of advice, because remember, folks, I'm a consultant, I'm a trainer, I'm a speaker. That's what I do for understanding what consultants do. Consultants come in, look at problems, and theoretically, the best ones do, look at situations objectively. So if you picture me, I'm here on the sideline. So I'm looking at things from both perspectives. I'm pro-fitness, so I'm always saying yay, yay, yay to everyone being successful in fitness. So I don't take sides, and that's why you've heard me make these comments on both sides of the equation. All right, but that's just the consultant coming out in me. All right, so the last piece of advice, and it certainly as a consultant, I would say to Crunch Fitness, last piece of advice, PF Michigan, in terms of your strategy moving forward, I would say, PF Michigan Group, extremely successful. They have laid out a roadmap for success. All right, and I would say Crunch, okay, franchisees, you folks here in Metro Detroit, I think you figured this out already, but I just want to tell you, they are your roadmap for success here. They've laid out different markets and all of that. I have a feeling you Crunch folks have figured that out already, because your second location was supposed to be Crunch Fitness after in Clinton Township after your Westland, Michigan opening, but then it turned into Dearborn and then Farmington Hills and then Clinton Township. So I have a feeling you figured that out. And it's no coincidence that those Crunch locations are popping up very close to Planet Fitness locations. All right, so that's what I would say. They've laid it out for you, but I have a feeling they've figured that out. But conversely, I would say, okay, PF Michigan Group, now you've got a major competitor. Now you've got someone guarding you, all right? And so now's the time. In 2017, it was cool to publicize and major, like Detroit News and Detroit Free Press and Cranes, all of that, your future club openings, and that's revealing a lot of competitive strategy. That a competitor, particularly one that is very skilled at maneuvering around the competitive moves of others at a poker table during a poker game, is going to be able to ascertain and gain a lot of information in terms of where you're going to be well in advance. So I can look at some real estate deals. I can look at all of that well in advance. So I would say TF Michigan group, now's the time to start to be Bill Belichick, the coach of the New England Patriots. Very, very successful, very similar level of success in your respective fields and what you're doing in industries. But now's the time to be more vague. Now's the time not to reveal in terms of future club openings and all of that, because you are giving your competitors, and other competitors are going to be entering the markets here in 2018 and 2019 in Metro Detroit. You're giving them a lot of competitive information that they're going to take and run with it and use that information to compete directly against you. So that's what I would say. But folks, sales is so important. Your marketing is important, but your sales execution has to be able to pull through and get those people to sign up, to stay with your club and not leave and go somewhere else in terms of retention, but also to upsell if you want to upsell them to the next level. But just be honest, treat people right, develop a sales strategy. Either you're going to be high pressure or no pressure, low pressure, but your hiring has to reinforce that. Don't surprise people and all of a sudden decide tomorrow to become a sales culture when you haven't been. You're going to have massive turnover because everyone can't handle that. I've tried to recruit people to sales, and that fear of rejection keeps a lot of people away. And so you got to know that. If you're a sales-driven facility and you're trying to make numbers, you have quotas and all of that, and you've got people at the front desk who were giving tours who were afraid of rejection, that is hurting you. I promise you. All the best marketing in the world is not going to overcome that. So you just got to know what you're working with, develop a strategy, develop your sales approach, and you will be successful. But I always like to share best practices, so apply what you've heard to your own situation.